As a trust, as a school, as an individual, we all have a part to play when it comes to safeguarding the children and young people within our family of schools. If we know what our responsibilities are and are supported to carry out that role, the joining of the safeguarding dots can begin. Over the past academic year, there were 3,000 plus concerns raised trust-wide. As a collective of staff working in schools, because we really want to provide the best education so our children and young people can flourish, our understanding, our knowledge, our professional curiosity around what we hear, what we see, or even what we are told, this is what keeps our students safe. Thank you for that vigilance last year, and let's hope that this year, as we enter it with all the excitement and the challenges that it brings, that we can keep that vigilance going. So by the end of this update, we will have looked at the new updates from KCSE, Keeping Children Safe in Education. We will have considered how those updates actually affect us in our individual roles and responsibilities. We'll also look at our practices and policies, just making sure that they enable everyday safeguarding. And we will revisit the types of abuse, but those safeguarding issues, those contextual concerns that affect our students every day. In the area of Northamptonshire that we work in, we have young people living under average deprivation with things like poor housing, poor mental and health. We have 19,000 0 to 19-year-olds in our local area, and 3,000 of those children belong to us. Even more importantly, the topic of safeguarding should be at the forefront of our minds. So what is safeguarding? Keeping Children Safe, which is our statutory guidance, explains it as protecting children from maltreatment, preventing the impact of children's mental and physical health and development, ensuring that children grow up in circumstances consistent with the provision of safe and effective care, and taking action to enable all children have the best outcomes. Those of us that work in early years foundation stage or a family support role, and again DSL's designated safeguarding leads, should make yourself aware of the Keeping Children Safe and also working together to safeguard children. Safeguarding is what we all do, every day, every interaction. So when we think about the word help, and in terms of safeguarding, I think it's important that we have an open mind, we enable relationships, we listen to the students that are in our care, and we pass that information on, that we record it, we respond to it, and we refer it. Sometimes we may feel slightly overwhelmed. We might have the thought that I'm just a dinner supervisor, I'm just a member of the site staff, I'm just a supply teacher. But each person has their part to play to join those safeguarding dots. All staff need to read Keeping Children Safe in Education Part 1. You will have a log on to our safeguarding system, which is My Concern. You will need to check the box to say that you have read the document, and this will be explained to you during your induction. The changes for academic year 2023 to 2024 in Keeping Children Safe include the age for marriage has increased to 18. This happened in February of this year, and it is now a crime to carry out or conduct any purpose that causes a child to marry before their 18th birthday, even if there are no threats of coercion or violence. This is now against the law in the United Kingdom. There is a change in wording. Children missing education. The guidance now talks about children who are absent from education, particularly those children who are absent for repeat occasions or for prolonged periods of time. There are often quite credible reasons as to why children are not in school, but as attendance at school is mandatory, and if children are not in school, the concerns are where are they and what are they doing. Absence and attendance monitoring is the gatekeeper of all safeguarding. The prevent duty we adhere to within our schools. there is a slight change in the wording around susceptible and vulnerable. Previously, the word vulnerable was used, and possibly we would think of those children, those students who may be vulnerable, spending lots of time online, those children with additional needs. The guidance has now introduced the word susceptible with the advent of many online experiences that children face, and the way that children are aware of online due to it will be their world of work. Those people that seek to harm our students with extremism and radicalisation ideologies will use any form that they can to get into the situations where children and young people are. So our guidance now talks about children being susceptible rather than being vulnerable, to include all children, as this is something that has been identified as we move further into an online world. This is not new, but online searches for shortlisted candidates, both those candidates that are applying for jobs from outside of our trust, but also those of us that want to progress or change roles within the trust. We have an online search system where we look back via Google on your name to see if there are any activities that may cause a contradiction to our staff code of conduct. At this point, it's wise to think about whether our social media platforms are clean and locked down, and whether there is anything there that can be deemed as going against that code of conduct, as we look to make sure that our workforce is full of people that are able to carry out the roles and responsibilities within our family of schools. Filtering and monitoring, there is a difference between what is allowed in and what happens during usage. And every member of staff within an education trust has a responsibility to report anything within our IT system if there is suspect or unacceptable content being accessed. If there is unacceptable content that has actually got through the filtering systems, and also any time that you may be teaching or being part of a lesson where that content could cause a spike in logs, it's pertinent to report that so that there is not any infringement on the education based on the words and the perhaps websites that may be looked at. Any failure or abuse of the system needs to be reported, but also if there are any restrictions that are perceived unreasonable and stopping certain subjects from being taught. It's also really important that we consider youth speak and any abbreviations that may be used to circumvent the filtering and the monitoring system that we have in place. Our system is called Securely, and every device that is used through our system is monitored through Securely. We also have something called Ripple, which if anybody accessed a site that was deemed as promoting self-harm or suicide thoughts or tendencies, a pop-up screen appears with support and a message to support that person to seek help for the state that or the situation that they find themselves in. As you can see in bold, the four main types of child abuse are highlighted there, but there are other experiences and situations that our children and young people may be exposed to. Bullying and cyberbullying, child-on-child abuse, child sexual exploitation, to name just a few. But there is also hazing and initiation rituals that may come along with the child sexual exploitation and criminal exploitation in gangs, along with the female genital mutilation. And teachers, you have a responsibility to report any instances of this abuse to the police directly. There is breast ironing, breast flattening, and particularly in the early months of an academic year, certain cultural groups and pupils returning from holidays abroad in various cultures. This is something that we need to be very much aware of. It's sometimes very, very frightening to think that we may need to be in a situation where we can actually identify that children within our care may be at risk of abuse, or there may be situations that are stopping them from reaching their full potential. If you take a moment to read this case study about a young family that live on a poor housing estate, and some of the things that they find a challenge possibly. These are the children of that family. If these children were in your class, in your lessons, within your school, what do you think could be happening for them? If we think not just about those highlighted areas of abuse, but some of those other contextual safeguarding issues we discussed, what could be these young people's lived experiences? I think it's important to remember that actually no single person, no one professional can have a full picture of the whole of a child's needs and circumstances, and indeed the family. But if families are to receive the right help at the right time, everybody who comes into contact with them has a role to play in identifying any concerns, sharing information and taking that prompt action. There's a real importance for professional curiosity, building relationships with our students and being aware of the situations that they live in and their family context. Within Nen Education Trust, all staff are responsible for reporting safeguarding concerns about a child. All of our schools have the My Concern information management system for safeguarding concerns, and all staff who work directly with children in schools have a login to the system that they are based, the school that they are based in. All of the students within our schools are pre-populated onto the entry system, and this supports ease of transfer, arrival of files, and is actually GDPR compliant. Your designated safeguarding leads within your school also use this platform to record and store child protection, court files, family agreements, safety plans, and any other information regarding child protection and safeguarding. Your DSL within your school will give you an up-to-date and guide of the My Concern system, but there are some useful help guides within the system that may be useful for you to download and to look at your own time, so that you are aware of the system and the way to use it. At the end of this video, there will be a short explanation of how to use the My Concern software. Very importantly, last year, the term low-level staff concern appeared within Keeping Children Safe in Education. Low-level concerns are those concerns that we have perhaps about a member of staff, a colleague that we work with, that don't necessarily, they're not insignificant, but they just give us that uncomfortable feeling or a sense of unease or nagging doubt. It may be that an adult working within our schools may have acted in a way that is probably inconsistent with the staff code of conduct, but also thinking about conduct outside of work, but does not meet the threshold allegation level for a referral to the local authority designated officer or the LADO. For example, a low-level concern could be a member of staff shouting at a child, possibly on their own within a closed room. There may be many reasons for this to have happened, but if left unchecked and this behaviour not nipped in the bud, this could lead to something more serious. Some examples of possible low-level concerns might be being over-friendly with children, having favourites, taking photographs of children on a personal mobile phone, and as I said, engaging with a child on a one-to-one basis in a secluded area. And humiliating pupils was added to the list of low-level concerns a couple of years ago. It's really important that the support for any low-level concerns that are reported is there for our members of staff. Recently in the news, we've heard the concerns that were raised about nurse Lucy Letby. I'm not suggesting for a moment there will be anything so severe and serious within our trust of schools, but our culture around supporting and providing extra help and CPD for those colleagues who may need it at various different times in their career can be identified through people being honest and open about situations that may cause that sense of unease or a nagging doubt. And the way that we record this, again, is through our Safeguarding Management Information System, and it's called Confide. So we have the My Concern for the children's safeguarding concerns, and Confide is the way that we record staff low-level concerns. Confide is used in exactly the same way as My Concern, and all of the staff in your setting are listed on the Confide system, and your safeguarding lead will be able to show you, once you have your school login and your school email address, how you use that system. But again, there are useful help guides within the information system. You will also see throughout schools the safeguarding poster with the QR codes with a link to all of the school policies around safeguarding and child protection, and also a link directly to your homepage of the My Concern Confide safeguarding pages for you to log in and register any concerns that you might have. You can only report concerns with your own setting. If you have concerns over staff in another school within our trust, please follow the safeguarding protocol that you are given from your DSLs during your induction period. And it's important to note that Confide and My Concern users, you have to log out of one of those systems before you log into the other. You cannot have two tabs open at the same time. As always, there is further training and support. There's lots of different topics, for example, cybersecurity, our Prevent Radicalisation and Extremism training. CPD throughout the year may include things like child-on-child abuse, domestic violence, all things to support you in working in a safeguarding way whilst you're employed by NEN Education Trust. There is also a supervision offer. It may be that you have a difficult situation to deal with in terms of safeguarding that may need some reflection and some action plans to move forward with. And as always, within NEN Education Trust, there are many benefits to being a member of staff, which will be explained to you, but the Education Support Service is a free advice line for anyone working in education. As the NEN Education Trust's safeguarding lead, thank you for taking the time to have this induction training. It would be helpful to meet with you over the coming weeks and months so that you can explain any other training needs that you may have, and I wish you all the very best of luck with your jobs within NEN Education Trust. Thank you.